Hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Our guest today, he had a time where he hit rock bottom, like many of us, and he has turned that around and become a huge success story. We're going to learn about all of that and more. It's coming up. We've got the host, creator, and writer of the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast with Sean Dustin. Give it up, my friend, Sean Dustin. So what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. You gave me a lot of credit, a little bit too much, because I definitely don't write a whole lot of anything.
And writing it's proverbial, right? I mean, the way I see it, I'm writing a book right now about my own story, right? But I actually record it. I'm actually making a podcast version of it first, right? So it's more of a docudrama narrative kind of thing. And then I take that audio and I transcribe that, and then I turn that into book form. So I've actually got a book agent waiting for me as she's collecting the chapters. And we're working on, negotiating, distributor deals, publisher deals. But I'm doing that basically by telling my story. So, I guess I'm a writer too, technically, but how much fucking writing am I actually doing? It's all coming out of my mouth.
I don't know. Shoot me your agent's contact, because that's the kind of book I need to write. And I got about 3 of them within my story itself, right?
Nice.
And there's offshoots to all the different smaller subset of stories that came from that crazy ass life.
Nice. So really quick, we're recording live in quarantine, as is the rest of the world. I'm in LA. Where are you, Sean?
I'm in California, Northern California, the Bay Area.
Oh, okay. Right on. Yeah. So we've got Bay Area to LA. We're just making it work, guys. Fuck it. We're doing it live. Anyways, Sean, maybe you could tell the listeners a little bit about your story. I want to hear about it. I've been dying to hear about it. I'll share mine with you as well once we get through yours a little bit.
All right. Yeah, I've been trying to refine my story down, because you know how it goes when you're trying to tell it. You haven't written it down, like as in like pieces, and it sort of just goes everywhere. You know what I mean? You jump from here to here to here, and you're like, oh damn, I forgot that. That was the best part.
Yeah.
So basically, man, I grew up a middle class neighborhood. I look like I'm Hispanic, but I sound like I'm white. So I grew up, kind of different than everybody else. There was a black family in my neighborhood, and there was also a Filipino family next door, and then my best friend was Portuguese. But I was probably the darkest, aside from the black dude that was down the street, right? And so I got teased all the time, man. And I was smaller, and so I got picked on and bullied and all of that stuff. My parents ended up splitting when I was around 5 years old. My mom ended up having to put me into daycare, and the only place that she could find was like one town over, because she worked in San Francisco. And so she had to commute every day. So I was there for a little while. I ended up getting expelled from preschool.
How does that happen?
That was a badass kid, man.
I guess. It's funny.
Yeah, so you want to know the story about how I got kicked out of preschool. So, I was, always just into shit, right? And, whether it was playing house or doctor, with the little girls running around, just always getting into shit, right?
Yeah.
And I guess somehow the elementary school that I went to was right behind the daycare, maybe about a quarter mile. So, you could see the school from the field, right? So you just walk through the field and go there. And kids would go back and forth, from school, because there was neighborhoods over here, there's neighborhoods over there. And so I don't even know what the hell got into me. I don't know why I did it, but there was a little girl and a little boy walking by, and I just happened to, there were some dirt clods on the ground, right? And I just picked one up and I started throwing it at him. And I didn't realize that there was a rock inside one of the pieces of dirt around it, right? So it ended up hitting the girl right in her face, right in her nose, right? And if it had been dirt, it probably would have scratched her, and burst it open. But instead, it was a rock, and it really fucked her up pretty good. So I got in trouble for that and got expelled from there. And so I ended up having to go to the school that was down the street from my house, right? And that was within like walking distance, maybe 2 miles. And that was the 3rd grade, right? So from the third grade on, I was a latchkey kid. And that's a horrible idea. Whoever came up with the idea of having a latchkey kid, that's a horrible idea. Because kids need supervision, they need discipline, they need structure, they need all of the things that being a latchkey kid does not have. The components are not there. And so I basically had the run of the house to myself. You know, when I go to home, my mom was always working in the city, so I knew exactly when she would be home. If it was tax season, she worked for a tax firm. She would be gone sometimes until 9-10 o'clock at night. So I have to, make my dinner, fend for myself, and do all that stuff. So what ended up happening is, when you're a kid by yourself and you're in a house by yourself, what is it? What does any third grader do?
Oh, you're getting into trouble, man. For sure.
You're rooting through everybody's shit because nobody's there, right? So I'm going through my mom's stuff, looking through every single drawer, trying to find this, trying to find that. Found some marijuana and a bong. And for some reason, I don't even know. I didn't know what it was, but I knew what to do with it. Right? Seriously.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and I think it was because I seen the charred black, what I mean? Like something that had burned in the bowl. And so I was just like, all right, well, I stuffed it in there and I took a puff and coughed my lungs out and got my bearings and like felt really good. I felt like, wow, all right. I jumped on my
skateboard. Third grade.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's crazy.
I jumped on my skateboard, right? Because we lived on a hill, like a pretty steep hill. And I've never would I would always get going and then I would be too scared and jump off, right? And, because I didn't want to get speed wobbles and fall. And I jumped on that damn thing and went straight down the hill. No speed wobbles, doing like 25 miles an hour. Just boom.
Wow.
And it was from that point on, I was like, holy shit, this is Superman stuff.
Yeah. Nice. I will tell you what, when I was that age, man, like, my parents didn't have that stuff, unfortunately, because I probably would have bumped into it as well at that time. But what I did find was my older sister had a huge collection of Barbie dolls, right? And one time, my parents would take us to a baseball game every summer. So we'd go to, grew up in Michigan, so we'd go to the Tigers games. And one year I got this like miniature baseball bat, right? It was like a souvenir or something. And so I got the idea of pulling off the Barbie heads from all of her Barbies. And we started using that as a baseball. So we'd pitch to each other. We'd smash them with those bats. and we'd run around. We could do it inside the living room. We could do it outside. Either way, it didn't matter. But we're just like beating the shit out of those things. And probably a couple of weeks went by. My sister finally discovered what was happening. And she was just like, she was heated. But I couldn't, I think, the talking about weed, like the first time I smoked weed was in like, I want to say the last day of school of 7th grade. And so you beat me by a couple of years. But speaking of Superman stuff, I remember, me and my best friend, we went over to this guy who was a little bit older than us, and he has a group of friends, and they're all smoking weed, and they're like, hey, you want to hit this? I'm like, sure. And, I'm smoking or whatever. And there was this guy that was a little bit older than me. He was a badass, right? He was into like 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and all that shit.
Yeah.
I had a lot of respect for him, And we're all stoned and shit. And he looks at me, he goes, hey, Brian, you want a slap box? And I'm like, all right. And so we're in this dude's bedroom and me and him are slap boxing. I'm just figuring we're just like fucking around, whatever. So I'm just kind of lightly hitting him. He's lightly hitting me back. And then he gets me good in the face. And I like leaned back, I wound up, and I just boom, like slap haymaker, dude. This guy goes flying over our other friend's bed and like into this fan. And I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I just did that. And he got up and he's just like, dude, you just kicked my ass.
That's funny.
At that point, I was like, yeah, that's some Superman shit right there. Oh shit.
Yeah, man. The days when we're kids, man, those are great. Yeah, fuck, I was gonna say something, man, after you said, you're talking about the cool guy with the dirt bikes.
Yeah.
I'll see what I started thinking is Kelly Lee from the Bad News Bears.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. He was like 2 or 3 years older than me. He had a goatee. He was like 9th grade or something. He had a goatee, like this big, like fire red This badass dude, wearing the fox shit and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Just to kind of wrap it up, because I mean, this thing can take forever if I try to go through the whole thing, right? So, I ended up doing that, right? I went to I was in junior high. So we'll fast forward to junior high. I'm seeing my dad every now and then. He does the every other weekend deal, but not nearly long enough time around for a young boy to have influence by having a man in the picture. You know what I mean? Like full time, like how I am with my kid. So what ended up happening is I was just, doing whatever I wanted. I was cutting school, like taking my buddy had and this was my first crack at fraud as well. Because my buddy had these he'd stolen these things from the dentist office, right? And they were like passes or slips that you would fill out to take to school with you to give you an excused absence, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I was doing that. I was forging those, and we would stay home all day long and just like hang out at his house and drink his dad's vodka, all his booze, and get drunk. And so, I was doing that, just really not. I was getting suspended and sent to the office constantly, dude. I was a class clown. They literally had my when I was in 3rd and 4th grade, my teachers would wrap my desk in corrugated paper, a wall around me, right? So I can't communicate with anybody because I'm always cracking jokes or just a clown, you know what I mean? Talking shit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I bought a butterfly knife from somebody, right, in school. I said, hey, you want to buy a butterfly knife? I'm like, yeah, that's fucking cool. I'll buy it.
Yeah, right.
And so I was playing around with it in school, and like right before, because we just in junior high, you're now going class switching periods, right? I'm sitting in there in my history class, and I would sit in the back. I always sit in the back, and I'm sitting there. The teacher's not in the classroom, right? I'm trying to be cool in front of all my classmates, and I'm playing. And I hear him coming. I'm like, oh shit! I put it in my pocket, right? And he comes in. He didn't see that. I missed my pocket, and like it literally, I moved around and it fucking went ting ting.
Oh shit!
So I got expelled from there twice. Okay, that's 2 times already. I've been expelled from a school.
Yeah.
All right, so I got expelled from there. I went and moved down to my uncle's in where's it? Like South San Francisco, San Bruno area. And then I went to junior high there. Like I went to school there, got kicked out of that place. Got shuttled up to my dad's in Sacramento. He wasn't prepared to deal with the likes of me, that's for sure. And he's 6'5", like 200 something pounds. I mean, I was rebelling, and he wasn't having it, man. So I ended up flunking out of 7th grade up there, and then had to go to summer school. And then finally, he's just like, he's like my mom. He's like, take him. I can't deal with his ass. So I mean, there's just like, what am I gonna think? What am I supposed to think? Like, damn, nobody wants me. I'm just this fuck up. I can't seem to do anything right. And so when I went back to high school, or I went back to the school that kicked me out, the first one or the second one for the knife, and they agreed to let me come back. Right? They're like, all right, well, you're in a bind and you need to finish the school year, and we'll go ahead and let you back in. So about 3 weeks. 3 weeks before the end of the school year, and I was 8th grade right now, and so my next step is high school. 3 weeks before the end of school, I got sent to the office, and after coming back, I mean, I was still getting sent to the office all the time, and they finally just said, you know what, go home, just go home. I'm like, what do you mean go home? And he's like, we're going to socially promote you to the 9th grade. You've got straight Fs. You know what I mean? You're a problem. Go home and don't come back. And so am I getting suspended? And he's like, no, you're getting an early summer vacation. Get out of here.
That's crazy. Wait, so you flunked every class, they promoted you anyways, and you didn't have to go for the last 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know who won that one.
Oh man, that's how bad I was, and it's like, and I'm like, okay, because then it's like now I get to stay home all day and nobody's there because my mom's in whatchamacallit, right? So one of the worst things that I did now in this time period, right, when I came back and when I was a junior or a freshman in high school, and mind you, I hung out with all of the older kids, right? When I was a freshman, I hung out with the seniors and the juniors.
Yep.
Just because people that were in my neighborhood, they all knew me, right? And they were seniors and juniors, and I think my best friend was 1 grade ahead of me. So when the summer, yeah, right when I think like the first year of when I was a freshman, like the first couple of months, somehow I got it into my head, and so I'd learned how to steal my mom's truck, right, and joyride it while she was sleeping, because she would go out and she was single, and she would go out and she'd come home, and like I would know if she's been drinking because I could hear her snoring, right, from below, right. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, mom's drunk,
she's out.
Yeah, she's out. And so I would literally, I remember going up to her room, right, the first time I ever did this, and before I found that there was a spare key and I knew where to get the spare key, so I would commando on my stomach through her, like where her bed was on the ground, right, and I would put my hand up and try to get her keys if they were in her purse, or if they weren't out. And I would go, and then I would open the garage door. And this was like the old garage door. We go, and her bedroom's right next door, right? Yeah. So I'm like thinking that every noise that I'm making is like 10 times louder than it is. I jump in the truck, right? It was an old 85 Toyota pickup, with the SR22 engine that everybody wants. Open it up. I would put the keys in there. I would put it in neutral, and I would go down. Remember, I told you I live on a steep hill, right? And so I would back out, like push it back out, and coast it all the way down the street, going backwards. Nice. Going backwards to the next street, go up, and then bam, right? So I did this in the summertime for the first time, and I did it because there was this chick that wanted to hook up, and I was a virgin at the time, and so I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get fucked. All right, cool. That's worth it, risk versus reward. Right. So I go over there, right, and I pick her up, and take her out to the back roads. I bring a blanket and a pillow, because I got class, right?
Right.
I'm a gentleman.
Gentleman.
And I handle my business in the back roads, and I take her and I drop her off, and then I roll back up, and so in order to get back in there, I have to be going at least 50 or 60 miles an hour up the hill so I could kill it and coast right back up into the driveway and into the thing, right? So that was the first time I did that. The second time I did that, because she wanted to do it again, but this time she got a little bit bolder and said, hey, well, why don't you just come to my house? Nice. You can sneak into my room. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's even easier. And so I did that. And this is the last time I did it, and this is why. I get there, I park, I get out, I start walking to her house to the side of the thing, and a pit bull is fucking out there. And he chases me up, and I jump onto the roof of the fucking car, right? And he's like, rah, 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 and he goes away. I go in there, I get into her room, handling business, and her dad fucking knocks on the door. And,
oh shit.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I jump out. I didn't have no clothes on, right? I jump out butt ass naked out of the window. I
jumped out of the window?
Yeah, I jumped into the window to get there. So back.
I mean, I figured if you're naked, you would have been like hiding in the closet or under the bed or some shit. You jumped out of the window naked.
I jumped out of the window into the backyard, right?
That's awesome.
And I couldn't leave because I don't have my keys because it's in my pants, right? So I'm like, fuck, where am I gonna go? And so there's a shed, right? That's by the fence, and there's about this much of a gap in between it. So I go and I shove my ass in there and I fucking scoot into the middle, and I'm like sitting there, right? Just frozen. Dude, there's a motherfucking dog in my ass on the other side of the fucking fence, sniffing. And barking. I'm like, shut up. Shh, shh, shh. You know, the dad comes out and starts looking, you know what I mean? I know he knows that his daughter was getting fucking nailed, right? But for some reason he didn't find me. He didn't know where I was, right? So I got out of that one. She threw the clothes out the window, and I hopped out after about a half hour, 45 minutes, being just stuck there. Like, should I go?
That's like the longest 30 minutes of your life, too, right?
Yeah. Like, I'm only like 15. I'm like, should I go? What do I do? So that's the last time I did that, right? Well, my first time with the law, right? The interaction, you know, where I got caught up with the law was directly related to this girl that I screwed, because I didn't know that she had a boyfriend at the time, and he was a gang member.
Oh shit.
Yeah. You know, you guys have the Sureños down there, the Southsiders. Mm-hmm. We've got Northsiders up here.
Okay.
And so I didn't know that. You know, I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. And so anyways, he called me up and he like left a message on my answering machine. With the tape, you know, you have the tape player answering machine. For those of you millennials out there that don't know what that is, I took that tape down to school, and like I said, I knew everybody. Like, I hung out with the gang members, I hung out with the blacks, the whites, the jocks, the drama geeks. I hung out with everybody. I knew them all. Yeah. And so I let some of my friends listen to this tape, and they're like, "Oh, fuck that shit, man! Fuck that shit! We're gonna get that dude. Let's go!" And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, let's go!" You know, I'm a little bitch, dude. I'm not a fighter, right? Back then. I wasn't, and so I'm like, "Hell yeah!" You know, we're gonna go do this. And by the time we got there was 4 carloads of dudes.
Damn. Damn, 4?
4 carloads of guys.
On your side or on their side?
My side.
Oh, damn.
And so we start walking.
Throw down.
Yeah, we walk down into the to where the area is, where everybody comes to the convenience store, lunch break, and whatever from this high school on the next town over. Mm-hmm. And we start walking down there. I see them, her and him, walking towards us. She bolts. I'm out of here. Fuck you. And he still keeps walking, man. I'm like, and so I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I guess I'm just going to ask him, why'd you call my house? I didn't have a plan, you know. I didn't know what I was going to do. These guys had a plan. I didn't.
I'm just along for the ride, guys. You called up the wrong dude's house, brother.
But I mean, I felt like a hot shot, you know what I mean? Because it's like, look at my backup, boy. What now? And so anyways, he comes walking up, and I start to say something to him. And before I can even get a word out of my mouth, he's reaching for his pocket for something. And somebody from the side just whap hits him. And then he ends up like boom, 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 gets pinballed, runs into the store, and there's like 3 more dudes ready to, you know, grab him, bring him back, throw him on top of the counter where the cash register is, knock the cash register off, just literally just and drug his ass. He ends up getting a hold of the knife, right, and slices one of my friends across the face.
Damn.
And I don't blame him, man. I'd have fucking sliced.
Well, I mean, too. I'm just thinking, like, how much does it got to suck that you're cheated on by your girlfriend, and then you get your ass kicked by a fucking gaggle of dudes? You know, like, talk about bottoms, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so anyways, all of that's on video because it's in a store.
Yeah.
I never touched the dude once. I never got to hit him.
Damn.
So anyways, long story short, I ended up getting charged with inciting a riot. And so I, from that point on, my mom got, you know, she couldn't control me, obviously. no, my dad's, still in and out of the picture sort of, but I mean, he's like, after that whole deal where me and him had a falling out it wasn't when I got kicked out of school and left from there. At one point I went up there because I was trying to hook up with this chick, and I knew my dad was on vacation, and I still had keys to his place. And I wanted to hook up with this one broad that I went to junior high with, because I was still in contact with her. So I drove up there, or somehow I got up there. I don't know how I got up there. I think I may have taken a bus up there, like Greyhound. And I went to his house, and I jumped over the fence and went in, and his neighbor saw me going in and called him. Well, what I didn't know is that my grandmother at the time, his mom, was having issues and was in the hospital dying, right?
Oh, shit. Okay.
And so he had to come all the way up there, leave her, come all the way up there and get me. And she died on our way back.
Shit.
And
that's crazy.
So, yeah. So that really put a monkey wrench in our relationship, because,
yeah,
I was the reason why you
couldn't be there for the last moments.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it, man. If that happened to me, with my mom, and him and his mom are pretty close, so I mean, it made sense.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, now that's on my mind. That weighs on me now. So I've got these accumulation of things. Like, fucking nobody wants me. I'm a fuck up. I can't do anything right. Everything I touch turns to shit. Look, my dad fucking doesn't even like me anymore. So I've got this narrative that's getting built in my own head, right? And so I end up trying meth for the first time. And the reason why I did that, and I think that was like the summer of my freshman year, right? So, and the reason why I wanted to try it so bad is that all my friends were doing it, and it wasn't meth at that time. It was crank back then. Back when bikers were still doing it. I mean, they still are, but they've refined their process.
Right.
All of my friends were doing it, and like when we would hang out, they would all disappear and go into a room and lock it, and I wouldn't. I was the youngest. Obviously, they didn't want to be responsible for turning the youngest dude onto it. All these other guys had already done it, and they knew I didn't do it. So, I mean, thank you. That was cool, but it just made me want to do it more. And so, I was hanging out. My dad ended up marrying the neighbor down the street. He divorced my mom, and then the neighbor that lived down the street in another court. I guess he had met her somewhere, and she had a sister. 2 sisters, and they were both stoners, and like they were like meth addicts. And so I think I had known that was available there, and so I went down and started hanging out there, because she was like my step grandmother, so she'd let me come down and hang out all the time, because I just literally lived right up the block. And that's where I got it. That's where I got it from her. I got it from and she was like 10 years older than me at the time.
Did she know that she was giving it to you, or?
I don't know. I probably,
were you like stealing it, or were like, I mean,
no, she smoked foil, smoked it on the foil right there,
right, right.
And so I think I probably, if anything, I probably lied about it and said, "Oh, yeah, I've done it before."
Well, yeah, because if you've done it before, then the pressure's off, right? You're like, all right, well, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Well, it's not my fault. Well, right. He's going to get it from somewhere.
No, that's funny, man. That kind of reminds me, not to segue a little bit, but it kind of reminds me. There's a lot of parallels between our childhoods, I think. Like somehow I was able to pull off good grades. I graduated top 10 in my class. I knew everybody, but it was a small podunk town in the middle of Michigan, 95% white people, one black family, one Asian family that owned the son of the black family was the star running back, and the Asian family owned the Chinese restaurant. Go figure. Everyone else was white, and except for like the last little 5% were basically Mexican or Latinos, right? everyone got along, but and you know, I was, like I said, I was smart, I was popular, that kind of stuff, but I was also a fucking rebel, dude. Like, you know, like I said, the first time I smoked pot was the last day of 7th grade. Sorry, mom and dad, if you didn't know. Oh well. You know, it was a long time ago, but you know, I dabbled with a couple other things in high school. I didn't do math until I was in the military, but that was after I'd already had PTSD and I was kind of fucked up. So I dabbled with it for a little bit, but I was always more into other things like I liked ecstasy, acid, stuff like that. But I mean, even when I was in high school, like I was in a punk band. I did some sports and some other shit too, but I was in a punk band, and that's and like headlining like every weekend. Our band would, and I can't tell you how many times I was like tripping while I'm on stage, like at like 16, 17 years old, right? Just fucking flipping the fuck out, but like still being able to play.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, fucking around, sneaking into places. Like I used to. Speaking of sneaking out, like God, I used to sneak out almost every night, dude. Like we had a pretty big house. It was a small town, so a pretty big house. My parents' bedroom was all the way on the east end of the house, and the door that we always used to go in and out was always on the west end, right? So I figured out how to like open the door without squeaking. You know, just real careful. And they'd always hang their keys like in the kitchen. They're hanging up in the kitchen, so I could grab them real quick, and I'd go out and I'd take off, and you know, whether it was going to like get laid or like just hang out with my friends or whatever, you know, we'd like smoke a cigarette or have some beers, smoke some weed, whatever the fuck else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss those days. That was fun. But like back then, it seemed so dangerous. You're like, oh, we're fucking rebels. We're doing crazy shit, whatever. And now it's just like, you know, it's life. It's life, you know.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So a part that I skipped. So this is I just kind of missed it. So in the 9th grade, towards the end of the 9th grade, I ended up. So since I know how to drive this truck and I have this this spare key now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or know where it is at least. So I'm like, you know, I want to cut school and I want to go hang out and do this, whatever. So I decided to take the bus to the BART station, right? And go to the BART station that my mom parks her truck at for her commute to go to the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I steal it from there and I drive it back home, right? And I'm, you know, rolling around school. Yeah, what's up? I'm hella cool, right? You know, get a group of people together with me. And this is probably about maybe 9 o'clock. I mean, yeah, probably about 10, 11 o'clock, right? And I already know my mom's not going to be home till around, or at least get to the BART station till 9:30, something like that, because it's tax season. And so we're partying at the house, drinking a little bit, and but not getting drunk, just having some drinks, and you know, at my house and my friends. So my other friend stole his mom's car, and it was a Mustang, and it was way better than that little tan pickup, right? And so I'm like, hey, I want to drive that back to the BART station, and then you can drive the truck. You know what I mean? That's a good deal for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, all right. He's like, but I don't know how to drive a stick. And I'm like, oh man. I said, does anybody know how to drive a stick? And my buddy Eric, he's like, yeah, I think so. And I didn't, you know, think, oh, well, sounds like yes to me. So I tried to. I'm like, well, I'll teach you how to do it, right? And so we're backing it up, and he punches it, and and I'm like, I was like, are you sure you got this? And he's like, yeah, it's all good. And he didn't turn the wheel because it was a manual steering, right? And he didn't turn the wheel after he went this way because the wheel just automatically rolled around and luckily didn't hit anything. And he punches it again. Son of a bitch, this dude. And me and him are both in there, right? He hops the curb and he runs right into my fucking house.
Oh shit.
Doing about like 5 to 7 miles an hour.
Oh my God, right? Dude. Your mom must have been so pissed.
Oh, well, that's not the end of it.
Go on.
All right. So, anyways, like the 4 dudes that were sitting on up on the like by the front door, like they just watched this whole thing. They're just like they're busting up laughing, right? And I'm just like, fuck, dude. Me and him get out of the car, and I'm like, I'm like, how am I going to hide this?
What, you got like a hole in your house?
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about like, oh man, this is horrible, man. What am I going to tell my mom? I'm like, how can I hide this? You know, what can I do to hide this? Because I'm like, and like everything started going through my head, like what I could do to get out of this, you know what I mean? And that's how my mind worked. My mind always worked on how can I get out of how can I get out of trouble? And then how can I get out of doing anything else, like a workaround? And so anyways, I ended up having to drive it back. I grabbed a pillow and a blanket and
of course.
I'm like, dude, what am I going to do? I can't hide it. I have to come clean. You know what I mean? It's like probably the first time in my life I ever told the truth. And so anyways, I go and I park and I fall asleep and I told my mom. And so anyway, once I had to tell her everything that happened, and this is like 10 o'clock at night. Dude, she literally drugged me over to homeboy's house that was driving, right? And in some other person's house, and like all my friends, dude. And so like embarrassed the shit out of me.
That's crazy.
Didn't get anything out of it that she wanted. I was like, dude, so they're not going to pay for it. I'm the one that told them to get in the car and drive. And so yeah, there was a hole in my room, and it hit right perfectly in between the stud between the fucking wall and the room. So there's a hole in this room, and then there's a hole in this room. So after that, she I think it was either after that or there was another incident where my aunt came in to live with us, and I threw a party during lunchtime and like
a lunch party.
Yeah, like we cut school again. I had a bunch of people come up, and I drank too much and passed out and got drunk, and somebody ripped off like jewelry and fucking all kinds of shit. So there was that. She ended up sending me to you know what Outward Bound is? That wilderness program where they send kids that are bad.
Oh, okay, sure.
To try to build confidence and whatever. And so I ended up going to this one in Joshua Tree. There was a 2-week program in Joshua Tree, and literally, like they drop you off. You get a map, and you're with some guys and a bunch of people, and there's a counselor, and then you have to figure out where your food drops are and all this other stuff. It's really to build confidence in teenagers because you know lack confidence and do stupid shit.
Right. So
I went through that, and I mean, just nothing worked, man. I was just a bad kid. Ended up doing a 151. Went to juvenile hall, did a 151 at the Boys Ranch. Ended up, and this isn't in order, but this was just around that same time. And as a consequence of all of that behavior, I ended up getting a violation, and they gave me an option to do a 6-month drug rehab, inpatient, or 9 months in juvenile hall. So I mean, of course, I wanted the 6 months in a group home setting where there was females there,
right?
You know, the opposite sex. So I mean, that's all I was thinking about,
right?
Went to that place. 6 months turned into 18 months because when you're in a drug rehab, it's not about time; it's about progress. I was manipulating my way through the whole thing, whether it was having people from the Emancipation House buy cigarette packs, bring them to me, and I'm selling them for $1 a piece, $2 a piece to the clients because you're only allowed 7. So I'm hustling in there, cutting hair. I think when I got finally somebody ratted on me and they went into the vent and they found like a roll of fucking cash like this.
From selling Lucy's. That's great.
Of course, there's a sex story in here.
Yeah.
I ended up hooking up with this one chick in there, and I was like, we're never going to get away with it trying to screw here, so let's just leave. I had cash, right? Because so what we did is we took off. We're hanging out, got on the BART train. I was like, but there was nowhere for us to go. And I'm like, well, fuck, let's just go to my house. I know my mom's going to be leaving at some time, right? So we went to the house, but she had locked everything up. So all of my ways to get in, I couldn't get in anymore. But what I did have was I had this, we hung out, we lived in where hills were, right? And so there's hills all around the houses. So I had a fort. that was up in the hills. That when I had left, I remember I had a tent up there because I would go up there and I'd sleep sometimes. It's a place where I tried to grow weed and I tried to do all this. It was like my spot, right?
Yeah.
And so I took her up there and I banged her in the tent and got what I wanted. And then I was like, all right, well, what are we going to do? And so as soon as my mom came home, I'm like, all right, well, I'm ready to go back. Went back to the treatment place. It was in big trouble. I made it through there. And then I did good for a little while. And once I got out of there, I got a job and I was like 18 when I got out. I got my GED. I was in there doing, this is where I first got my introduction to public speaking because I was doing so well in there and I'd written some essays and gotten a couple of scholarships for my writing and also did outreach to high schools. So I go to high schools and I would go and tell my story to all the kids, right? And but I couldn't figure out a way how to transition that when I got out, how to turn it into something because none of this was available, and podcasts hadn't come out. Tony Robbins was just scratching the surface, and there was a couple of the guys that were before him. So I just kind of like, all right, well, I went back home and somehow I ended up moving up to Sacramento. I used the girl and this is a shady story. This is just kind of like to paint a picture of what my mindset was, man.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I sit there and I think like I'm laughing because I'm like, on one sense, it just sounds like pure like innocence, right? Just doing stupid shit, whatever, right? But on the other side of things is, that's also like a pattern of stuff too, right? So it's like, like the more stupid shit you do, the harder it is to kind of get away from continuing. It's like that cycle, right? It's like that virtuous cycle or the unvirtuous cycle, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But I'm laughing because I'm like, dude, this is a bunch of shit that I would have done too. Like, But anyways, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it went, right? And I moved up to Sacramento, and how I had done this. Me and my buddy, we were like, all right, we got to get out of here. Let's get out of. And me and him were doing meth together, right? Or crank, whatever it was. And me and him had become best friends, and he went and was staying at my house all the time. And this is when I was out, so I really wasn't doing anything. Didn't have a job, wasn't doing anything. And I'm like, dude, we got to get out of here. Let's go move to Sacramento. I got a bunch of money coming, and that's what we did. We went and moved up there. I was with this one chick, and she was my girlfriend, and she had bought a car and put it in my name after I got up there, right? Because she needed a car. Somehow the loan didn't go through, and they had me return the car, and they gave me they wrote the check and put it in my name.
Oh, nice. Well, because the title was in your name.
Yeah, for the down payment, right? Oh, bad idea. So, needless to say, that she was gonna do something, like she was saving money to move out and do this, but she wanted to get this car, whatever. Well, I ended up cashing that check and I blew all that money. It was like $2,500 or nice. Something like that. And she ended up having it even broken. And so she moved up there. But I was not in no way, shape, or form boyfriend material. You know what I mean? I had friends that were living in Chico. I would go up there and I would sell, I'd get an ounce of crank from one of my buddies, and I'd go up there to Chico State and I'd sell fucking like the whole thing in 20s.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because all the kids are up there trying to cram for finals and stuff like that. And so they're like, they don't know. Well, let me just get a teener, or let me get an 8-ball. They're like, let me get 10 20s. And I'm like, all right, shit, I'll give you one for free. And so I'd stay gone for days at a time, man, and never even contact her or anything like that. I cheated on her, I'm sure, umpteen times up there. Fuck, dude, I'm in a college town. What do you think?
Right.
And on crank,
Yep.
So she ended up, that lasted for a little while, and I had jobs in between here and there. But I mean, I'm just a fuck up, man. Everything I did I never took anybody's else's feelings into consideration. Every person was a stone for me. You know what I mean? What can I do to how can you be of service to me and my needs and what I need from you? And she gave me a dose of my own medicine because we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment upstairs, and one of my buddies was a grower up there in Chico, and he growed indoors. And so I went and bought all of the shit to do indoor growing, right? So I had 2,000-watt lights on a sun circle that spun around, set up this whole upstairs room to do all this stuff, right? Had everything on timers and shit, but I didn't know what I was doing because I had all this equipment, but I didn't know how to really utilize it. I didn't know how to grow weed, even though I'd been trying to do it my whole life. And so it just, I had, at one point I had like 16 plants in here, but they were all real stringy buds because it was like 90 degrees in there the whole time, and you know what I mean? And so it was kind of a bust, but I had a new one going, and I'd figured something out. Well, she had gotten tired of my shit, right? And I knew that something was up, and she went to go hang out with. I'm gonna go spend the night at my friend's house, and I'm like, all right, but I knew something was up, right? And so, and mind you, I talked her into becoming a stripper too. All right, so not only did that's how good of a dude I was. I'm like, all right, well, what? Like, damn, how can I get the most money out of you?
Well, I mean, it's also the oldest profession. So, I mean,
And so, I literally delivered her to the door. It was like, you used to be a stripper. She went, she auditioned, she got into it. I knew something was up. And so one night I just kind of like hung low and was like surveilling her when she left. And it turns out she was fucking around with the door guy. All right. And I didn't try, "Ooh, motherfucker." I was like, all right, it's cool. I know, that's really all I wanted. I just wanted to know.
You didn't roll up 4 cars deep?
Nah.
Not that time.
Not that time. So yeah, what ended up happening there is I told her, hey, I know what's going on. I whatever, it's, and I think one day when I was at work, because I was working at Marie Collander's, somebody called and asked if I was working, right? And I didn't think anything of it. Well, when I went to go home, because she had been staying with dude and would come when I'm not there, but the place was in her name, so she was just kind of really waiting for me to get my shit out. I think I don't know what it was. But anyways, I showed up there. The locks were changed. I couldn't get in. All my stuff is inside.
Damn.
And the grow room and all of that equipment, right?
Yeah.
So I hopped the balcony, and I ripped the sliding glass thing off the tracks and get in. And all my plants, all my equipment, everything's gone. My dog's gone. Everything that we'd gotten together was gone. Wow. And so she'd had that dude that she's seeing now. She went and moved in with him, and he helped her do all that, right? And so she'd had a couple of bags of her clothes that she had left there, couldn't get, whatever. I took all those, dumped them in the middle of the fucking floor. There's bottles of bleach, and persisted to bleach
the shit out of her clothes.
Yeah, I bleached symphonied the whole fucking
nice.
Living room of the apartment, even the whatchamacallit. And then to top it off, I was like, all right, well, there was a 50-gallon fish tank, and it was my fish tank, and I'm like, well, I know where to put that motherfucker now. So boom, busted it. Fucking
no shit.
Flooded out the downstairs neighbor's apartment, right?
Oh, God.
And so she got. So I hope that and I'm not advocating people do that now.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, my mindset back then was like, well, I hope all my shit was worth it, bitch. You know,
you're not vindictive at all, right?
No, I'm not petty as fuck. Somebody called me Tom Petty the other day. So, anyways, yeah, I didn't get in trouble for that. She ended up, having to foot the bill for all the repairs of that.
Mm-hmm.
I was friends with the manager because she's a chick that I used to hang out with, and so she ended up renting me another apartment. She knew I was growing the weed. She knew I was doing all this other shit, and she just let me rent one right down the way.
Nice.
After about 4 months, like this shit, let it cool down a little bit. And then from there, man, I just got involved with. There was another incident where my homeboy, I was living in an apartment. My boy, another buddy, moved in with me. He was a bartender at one of these really popular nightclubs in Sacramento, and where the Kings used to hang out, right? Mm-hmm. The Sacramento Kings. And this was way back, not any time recently. Mm-hmm. And so, anyways, we were hanging out, and my other buddy was, his ex was a stripper, and I guess she had done him dirty, and he was like, "Well, dude, you want to hit a lick?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm always down to get free money. What's up?" So he was like, "I know where my ex keeps all of her cash, and she's got about 20 or 30,000 in there, and so all you got to do is figure out how to get in the house." And I'm like, done. Went and got a lockpick set. Taught my other buddy how to do it. You know what I mean? Because he was going to be the one. I thought, I'm paying for the lockpick set because I'm the only one that's got any money. And the rest of you're going to have to figure out how to do the rest, right? I didn't want to get my hands dirty. So, anyways, he ended up doing that, and we each ended up making like $7,000 or $8,000, and we split it. And so I was trying to be a baller, right? Living like a baller, hanging out. We were going to nightclubs. And I remember this one night I took a limo to that nightclub, right, where he worked. And he was giving us, we would just give him like a card. He would hold it and then, act like it was a tab. And then we just pay him out some cash for a tip at the end of the night, right? So it looked like we were balling.
Yeah.
And I ran into this one dude who I started selling cocaine for. And there was somebody who was trying to confront him, and I didn't really even know him, but we were talking and we were cool, right? And somebody ran up on him, and I had a group of people with me, like an entourage, because we came in the thing, and so I had gathered all of them and had this dude's back. And from that moment on, so when you ever been friends with a dude, and like right when you meet, it's like you two are just bam.
For sure.
Joined at the hip, you know what I mean? It's like, damn, like it's like, and it doesn't happen all the time.
No, it's a straight up bromance, dude. That's what it is. Yeah. It's fucking bromance. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
awesome.
and so it was like he kind of took me under his wing, and like I was at his house all the time, and he was married, and his wife liked me. And so that's where I really started selling drugs at. And I was in a raid with him at his house because he had gotten busted and he went to prison. That was a whole fucked up situation. Because then I went and lived with her to, like help her out with the rent and everything else. I wasn't fucking around with her or even tried to. But I was still partying all the time because I hung out with all these strippers and figuring out how to do what I was doing, right? I was working in these strip clubs. I was, I think my schedule was, the only day I was off was Mondays. It was Tuesday through Sunday. I was either selling in any of the nightclubs, because at one point I was a bouncer at one of these nightclubs. And so I knew all the people that worked there. I was selling ecstasy, GHB, cocaine, mushrooms, you name it, man. When I was living in Sacramento, dude, I was buck.
You were the guy. Yeah. And
so like to the point where I would have people come into my townhouse, like we'd all go party at the club, and then after hours was always at my place. And then that's where I would sell more drugs. I'd fucking bring the people there. I'd have a DJ there. My homeboy's a DJ. And so, that's, that was my life. And I mean, I even had my nickname was Mr. After Hours. If anybody out there listening in Sacramento, Roseville, California area, you remember that name, Mr. After Hours.
There we go.
That's me. So and it just, you know, it just kept, I just never, you know, I ended up hooking up with this other stripper that, you know, I was at one of the clubs that I was selling at. I just got into all kinds of shit, man. I was, there's when I was doing GHB, you remember what that is, right?
Yeah, it's a date rape drug.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what they call it, right?
It can be used.
It
for
can
that.
be, yeah.
And so I was on that. I was taking that quite a bit, right? And it's kind of like marijuana. When you build a tolerance to it, you're functional on it, right? To a point.
Got it.
And so I would get to that point, man, where I would black out standing up. I would black out. I would black out because I would just take so much of it, right? But my mind is still going, but my body, or the other way around, I don't know which one it was, but one of them was still going and the other one wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I could drive this way, and there would be times when I would be driving, and I knew that, like, here's the exit that I wanted to take. I knew I want to get off over here, and I'd be 20 miles down the road, and I came to not knowing how I got there, and it hadn't wrecked.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just constantly things like that, you know what I mean? And how I got to Vegas from there, you know, because I was into raves and the rave culture. I was going to raves all the time. You know, there's tons of people. In that period of time, I almost died like 3 times on overdoses from ecstasy, you know, mixing drugs, ecstasy, GHB, alcohol. And that really gave me an idea of how insignificant I was, even though I was popular. They left me there. You know what I mean? I was foaming at the mouth, and it's like they were just like, oh well, he'll sleep it off. And luckily, I did wake up. You know, and you know, because I was, you know, when you're foaming at the mouth like that, it's an obvious sign that you're having a reaction.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, dude, like I was on the rave scene for a while too when I was younger, man. And, you know, this was back when when the rave scene was underground warehouses, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, I didn't fuck with, I've been drugged 3 times, probably GHB, but it's been against my knowledge or against my will, obviously. Yeah. So I don't really know what that feels like, but like my rave drugs of choice were always, you know, acid, ecstasy, ketamine was a good booster for that shit.
Yeah,
you know. But I mean, if there were enough of it, you know, if I took enough of it, I'd be tripping for like, you know, that's one time I tripped for like 3 days straight, dude. I was like, when the fuck is this coming out? But I was never foaming at the mouth. So I was never at the point where like, you know, am I overdosing or not? It was just, you know, I was just fucked up for more than one day, which is crazy to think about, you know?
Yeah. So the last thing I remember before that happened, right, is because I was already, you know, I started the night with some cocaine, you know, doing coke because that's what I was selling to. And then I, you know, was drinking, doing some, I did a couple of tabs of E in that time frame, did some G. And then when I came back to that apartment, I took a shot of tequila, and then I dropped a hit. I dropped a gel cap. I shoved in my ass.
Damn.
So I mean, that's the last thing I remember. And then then I woke up in the morning, and that wasn't enough for me because as soon as I got up, I was looking for the GHB. So I mean, I could never get high enough. Oh, I said, and that wasn't enough because after I woke up and I passed out and woke up, I went looking for the GHB so I can get high again. You know, so it was never enough for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep going and stepping it up.
So did you say you were in Vegas for a while? Like, were you living in Vegas or were you just like there raving?
Yeah. Well, no, I lived in Vegas after I lived in Sac. So the reason why I left.
When did you live in Vegas? I lived in Vegas too, actually. So that's why
I lived in Vegas. Early 2000, 2000, because my daughter was born there, my first daughter. So it's 2000 through probably 2004 is when I got arrested and went to prison.
Yeah, so I was there from 2006 to 2009. So yeah, would have just missed each other.
Yeah, you just missed me. Vegas is a weird place, man.
Vegas is crazy. It's such a weird place. Like it's a lot of fun. Like I knew like some of the top photographers and shit like that inside the club. So like, you know, I never had to wait in line. You know, if me and my friends saw a group of hot chicks, we'd bring them with us in. Yeah, we never had to pay cover. You know, half the time we'd get free booze or whatever, table service, whatever else.
I I had a plug at Dre's for a while.
Nice.
Before Dre's was what it is now.
Yeah,
So
I remember that.
This was the small Dre's. You know what I mean? Just like a dungeon when you go down in there.
So when I was there, I mean, my a friend of mine, he is now like the most prominent photographer in Vegas. He shoots everything at the T-Mobile Arena or whatever it is when they do the award shows, sporting events, Las Vegas nights. He does all the UFC shit.
Nice.
Everything ESPN related. Like he's big time, but he got his start. He was one of the first photographers that was going into nightclubs and taking pictures of people having fun, and then they would put it and post it on a website. I don't know if you ever heard about that shit. I don't know if that was after you went to prison or whatever.
Yeah, that was after. Yeah, that's probably after.
But that was the early. That was like 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006 when that stuff was starting to happen.
Yeah.
And he's making fucking buck now, dude. He's probably closing in on like $500,000 a year. Like, it's right, yeah.
Baller status right there. Right? I mean, for a regular dude like us, you know what I mean?
Right? Total baller status, dude. Especially when you start by like just taking pictures for free and posting them on a website.
Yeah, like what everybody does now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was one of the first guys to do it. Yeah.
That's funny. That's what Instagram is now.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. Precursor.
So anyways, Sacramento, why we left Sacramento, I ended up hooking up with a stripper. I got her pregnant. I was hanging out with some rough dudes from the city. I was hanging out with a lot of guys that were, I don't know if you ever heard of Area 51 Productions. It was a rave company out here.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of it. Yeah, they were bringing in shit from Amsterdam and, you know, rolling heavy in the ecstasy game. And I was just like, I had gotten into some funk with this dude, and he was crazy. This is a black dude, and it was my homeboy Rich's one of his friends, and we had gotten into some funk, man, and it was one of those things where if we crossed paths again, somebody wasn't going to walk away. Mm-hmm. And
shit, really?
Yeah. And so I kind of, because the dude was a lot, like he was a lot more street than I was. Let's just say that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's kind of rough, and I was a little scared of him. And so I was like, well, you know what? This would be a good time to leave. This would be a good time to leave Sacramento. And so I'm like, you know, my chick's already stripping because I'm with a stripper, right? I'm like, well, shit, you got about what, you know, at least 5 months that you could still work, right? So let's go to Vegas and you can go work at one of those strip clubs there. You know, that'd be great for you. You know what I mean? Because I'm not worried about where I'm going to work. I'm just, we need to know where you're going to go because you got to pay for me. Mm-hmm. No, there he is again. You know, that guy that's always angling to make sure that he's taken care of.
Right.
So anyways, we moved to Vegas, have my daughter. Things are okay. We're whatever. I'm drinking. None of the hardcore fucking. And then my homeboy moves up there, and with his chick, his stripper, right? Mm-hmm. So he moves up there, and I had moved him out at one point from, like, when she went to Vegas to work. You know, when we were living in Sac, mm-hmm. I had moved him and all of his shit out of her house once, right? And he ended up getting back together with her, and then they moved up there. I ended up hooking up with him, and yeah, dude, we just started partying together and hanging out. And then I moved him out of there into my house. So the mm-hmm. same thing, she went to Vegas again, and fucking when she came back, all his shit was gone, and he was living with me now in Vegas. And me and him just were going to strip clubs and just doing all kinds of shit, fucking doing drugs, whatever, just partying. And I had a pregnant chick, right?
Mm-hmm. Very responsible of you.
Oh yeah. So, dude, we've already established that I'm just a douchebag, right? Like I'm like the dude. I said, remember I told you
these are growing pains, man. These are growing pains. I tell you what, like, not to get too deep, but I believe that everybody is a collection of their moments, dude. And you are who you are right now because of the shit that you've gone through, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I've gone through plenty of douchebaggy shit myself as well, and you know, I'm still here. You're still here. Fuck it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's almost better to be like more open and honest about the whole fucking path.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's fucking crazy, you know, and it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you go around, you can fucking get in trouble, you go to prison or jail or whatever else, or other things happen. A lot of people, you know, they wind up in prison for a long time or dead. You know, a lot of them don't make it out, man. And the fact that you're here, you know, 10 plus years later after you went to prison in Vegas, for example, you know, that's a success story. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, you got to hear the shit leading up to it, because I mean, shit, man. I mean, not only are they fun stories, but it's also like leads to like how you got into that fucking situation, right? And then how you've been able to like pull yourself out of it.
So that's just the first third of the story. All right. Because that's not even going to prison yet. That's not even getting out. Mm-hmm. And then all of the madness that went into that. Yeah. So we ended up splitting up. Because I think after she got pregnant, it was just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I was maybe drinking too much or being an asshole. I wasn't very good at relationships, obviously. So I ended up moving in. He moved out, right? And then he got an apartment, and he got a 2-bedroom apartment because he knew that I was going to be following him shortly thereafter. And so I was like, all right, I'm out. And so I moved into there. Me and her were still kind of cool. My daughter was already born. I would have her every once in a while, and she started dating some other dude. And then she, for some reason, I think before she started dating this other dude, she was going to go to California to see her family. She was going to fly, right? And she goes, well, can you just take my car, my 4Runner, and drop us off at the airport and you can drive it. Well, she didn't tell me that she had let the insurance lapse on it. And so I went out that night. The night she left, it was Christmas Eve, as a matter of fact. And I went out to Rum Jungle. And I think that's the one that's in the Bellagio or some, I don't know, one of those places. Mm-hmm. And I went there by myself. I did a lot of things by myself. I would go to a club by myself. I go to like a bar by myself. That was never like a thing for me. I drank some. I was like bored, whatever, no action. So I ended up leaving, and I had taken, at this point, they didn't have GHB anymore, but they used to sell that stuff in the GNCs. And remember, once it hits your system, it wasn't GHB in the bottle, but when it interacted with your system, it turned into it, and they would sell it as like cleaning supplies. You know, that's how, yeah. And so I had a bottle of that, and so I took a cap before I left, and the next time I woke up, I had ran into a telephone pole or a light pole.
Oh, Jesus.
Had a boom, like tacoed it, right? And this was all the way down Flamingo. You know where Flamingo and Desert Highway, or what is it?
Desert Inn?
No, not Desert Inn. It's Boulder Highway.
Oh, Boulder Highway. Yeah, okay.
All right. So there's that liquor store. You're
south, right? Like you're like near like Henderson, right?
Yeah. Well, no, not really. So it's Flamingo all the way to Boulder Highway.
Is Boulder Highway on the south or the north? I forget.
It's on the.
I feel like it's on the south.
On the side where you go to the lake. You know what I mean?
Lake Las Vegas, Lake Mead. Yeah, it's in the south. Yeah, you cut through Henderson. Okay, or it's near the Henderson. It's kind of like the South Las Vegas Henderson border.
Yeah.
Around there. Mm-hmm.
So if anybody out there is familiar with this area, there's a liquor store right there. And so had I went this much further to the left or this much further to the right, I would have ran right into this liquor store.
Damn.
So I guess I got lucky in one sense. But it tacoed the whole thing. So it went down the center and just went boom. Damn. And the whole thing was dented inside. I don't know if I had my seatbelt on or not. Obviously I must have, because that was a pretty hard impact. But anyways, I got out as if nothing happened, walked right across the street to the 7-Eleven and bought Gatorade. And the lady had seen this whole thing happen going down, right? And she's like looking at me like,
wait, so you tacoed your car on a light pole Not a single scratch. You got out of the car and walked into the 7-Eleven and bought a Gatorade.
Yes.
And this one lady is watching the entire time.
Yeah, the cashier, she's just looking at me like, what the fuck did I just witness? You know what I mean? Like, you just got out like nothing happened. Like, it wasn't even your car. Because it wasn't my car. And so anyways, that's not the end of it. All right. So I go and I get my thing. And really what it was I went to get that Gatorade for a chaser because I wanted to take another cap because I still had my bottle, right? So I took another cap, blacked out again. And when I wake up this time, I'm standing at a drive-through looking at the menu, right? I have no idea. I must have walked there somehow. And so I get my bearings. I'm like, fuck, where am I at? You know what I mean? Let me find out where I'm at. I see my car. I see the car or the vehicle. The tow truck's pulling it up now, right? It's coming onto the thing. So I run over. Whoa, wait. I need to get something out of there. Go take another cap. This time when I wake up, I'm standing in front of the porno rack in the store that I almost ran into.
You're back in there again.
I was never in there.
No, sorry. I thought you said the 7-Eleven was the spot too, but okay.
No. So the store that I almost ran into, it was open, and it was one of those liquor stores, you know, that have all the dirty magazines in the racks. So I'm like going like this, you know what I mean? Like whatever I'm doing. So the cops end up coming in there, and they're like, they're leading me out, right? And when I come to this time, I'm like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing, right? Because I would black out and come to. And they were like, whoa, wait. You know, you're going into the ambulance because you have head trauma.
Yeah.
They thought that because of my behavior that I had hit my head in the crash.
And they didn't realize that you were actually just like loaded on GHB.
Yeah, and I didn't smell like alcohol, so there was nothing that they, you know what I mean? They loaded me into this thing, and the guy, after we already leave, the cops are gone. Dude, quit bullshitting, man. What the fuck are you on? And I'm like, nothing, Moon. And he's like, dude, I need to know because if I give you something and it has an interaction, it's gonna fucking kill you. And I'm like, oh, okay then. Yeah, I was on GHB and this and that. And so as soon as I got there, I left. I bounced. It cost me a relationship with her because we were kind of trying to work it out. But after that, you know, she owed the whole amount of money that she owed on that car because I had to total it and she had no insurance on it.
Damn.
So yeah, that kind of put a damper on things with us.
A little bit, I would imagine.
So anyways, she leaves. I end up going down to Phoenix for 6 months, stayed drunk the whole time I was there. My ex had my rights terminated as a parent, right? Because I didn't show up to contest it because I was partying and I was like, she's better off without me anyway, so fuck it, you know? And so when I went to Phoenix, I was kind of like grieving that whole thing because I did spend 18 months of her life with her, you know what I mean? I did have a connection to her and a bond. I mean, not a strong one, but I mean, I did have one. And so anyways, come back, you know, shit still doesn't work out. Ended up getting a job at a strip club in North Las Vegas, hooked up with a stripper. She was a meth addict, and that's when I started doing meth again. And this is when it turned into crystal. And so by this time, we're doing it. I'm not working anymore. I'm selling meth full time now. I'm, just kind of balling. I'm trying to recreate the life that I had in Sacramento because Sacramento was the shit. You know, that's where I was like, when I was doing that, it's like big time, you know, well, not big time, but I mean, I was trying to recreate that whole feeling and situation in Vegas, and Vegas is a whole different monkey, man.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're not from Vegas, if you're not a local from Vegas, they're weird, man. The people that grew up with each other there, like, because you'd have dudes ratting on each other and get out of prison and then be hanging out again. And yeah, it was crazy. The only place where I would see moms and dads smoking meth or banging meth with their kids.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so that was like it was a really strange place. And then, I was selling a lot of, not a lot of weight, but I mean, it was a lot of weight for me. It was, I was selling ounces and quarters and stuff like that. So yeah, anyways, long story short, I was, I had guys working for me. I'd figured out how to manipulate and use people that were slamming dope because they were, they were way worse of an addict than I was. And, they would pretty much do whatever I wanted them to for drugs. So I would have them do smash and grabs for me
Wow.
and I'd provide the vehicle for them to do it and just pay them, in cash. They came back with guns. They came back with all kinds of shit, man. And so what ended up happening is I ended up selling to an undercover because one of the dudes I was dealing with flipped on me, set me up. I made 5 controlled buys. What ended up happening?
What's a controlled buy? Like you bought from him 5 times, or?
So a confidential informant makes the connection. Right. Somebody that I trusted sends somebody to me, and then that person's been either one of them's been compromised, right? Yeah. And I think they both. He had been compromised. The CI is a lower level, like petty guy like me, and then the actual, because a cop has to be present there too, and introduced me to him, and I sold like 5 ounces 5 different times.
Damn.
And so, which I should have been in jail after the first time, but they need to stack the charges against you so you can't get out. So anyways, I had already known that like I had a feeling shit was going down. You know what I mean? It's like my time was up. There's just a funny feeling that I had, and so I got rid of all the guns and except for one, and everything else I still had there because I didn't really care. I just needed to get rid of the guns because they all had filed serial numbers off on them. I was doing something. It was about 2:00 in the morning, and my chick and her friend were asleep in this room. Me and another dude were in this other room. I had a huge stereo system that was turned on, to like something loud on TV. And I was in the back and I was working on it because I was counterfeiting $100 bills at the time, right? I was washing dollar bills and then I was printing a old 100 on top of those. And it was, it was working sort of. And so I was working on the thing on the computer, right? I heard something, man, and it sounded like cops or something loud. And what it turned out to be is they slugged the back gate, but the stereo was so loud, right? The TV was so loud that I couldn't really hear it. But I heard some booms, and so it was they slugged the back gate as they shot in a flashbang through the windows, right? And what I had double pane glass windows because I was living next to Nellis Air Force Base, right? And so I had tinted the inside of these windows. And so when they shot it in, it bounced back on them and it blew up on them.
Damn.
And one of their dogs bit them, right? And so I heard that, and then another bang came through the sliding glass door, right? I still don't know what's going on. I think somebody at this point, I'm like, all right, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, fuck, it's a drive-by. That's what I thought. Right. And so I grabbed the gun, semi-auto, will fits in the palm of your hand, and I have it down by my leg. So there's a corner, there's a hallway, a corner, and then the front door is right there. But I had a big ass console TV right there, like the old school big screens that are like hella heavy and wide and big.
And they're deep, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's in the way. So, and then the door can't even open, so they can't see behind it, right? All they can see is from, here's the TV out this way. So as soon as I look, I come around the corner like this, like just picture you're like going the thing, like I have a gun like this and I'm going around the corner and I look up and I see the SWAT shields and immediately I throw the gun behind the TV and I dive and put my hands on my head, right? They see that gun, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So anyways, I never got caught with that gun because they were already pissed that their dog bit them. And so when they got me in handcuffs, they picked me up and rammed me into the TV, and the TV went up over the gun, and they never found it.
Wow.
They never found the drugs either because all the drugs in the cache were in a TV VCR combo that was hanging up high, and the drug sniffing dogs didn't catch it, and they never bothered to look. So as soon as I got out, I took all my money, all my dope, and we moved in, had enough money to put down on a new place, moved the whole operation somewhere else.
Well, how long are you in though? I mean, it seems crazy to me to be like, to get, brought in by the SWAT team, like that's fucking wild, dude.
Well, they kept me in for 2 days. They gave me an OR. They gave me an OR, yeah, because I didn't have any felonies on my record. I had all this other little petty shit, right? But I didn't have any felonies, so they let me out, and they do that on purpose, especially if you're a drug dealer or you're
because they want you to fuck up again, or they're watching you or some shit.
Yeah, they want to watch you, or they know they're going to catch you on some more shit.
Yeah,
and they did. They absolutely did. It worked. Their thing worked. Because I was like, as soon as I got out, I'm like, fuck that, I ain't going back. You're gonna catch me if you can, right? Game on, motherfucker. And so I moved all my shit up there. I put surveillance on every area. So I mean, there was only one way in this way, one way in this way. I had them all on camera. So and even the main street. So I knew what was coming and who was going. And I just persisted to. I didn't want to sell drugs anymore because I didn't want to, if I got in trouble, I didn't want to catch another case doing the same thing. So I switched to white collar crime, which is check fraud and credit card fraud and stealing identities. And
let me ask you this, like, what was your thought behind that? Like, you made a conscious decision to say, hey, I'm going to start, ripping people off or whatever? Is that, or... Yeah, I mean, like maybe one day you're just like, oh, well, I found this like fake ID or this other person's ID. And
no. Well, for the drugs, no. I mean, okay.
Well, so when you made the switch from, you just said, hey, you stopped the drugs because you didn't want to get busted again for the same shit, and then you moved into check fraud, wire fraud, that kind of stuff. Like,
because I already had the I was already doing the $100 bills, right? I was already had the programs. I had the whatever. They didn't take everything, so there was still I still had some equipment that I could do, because I had duplicates of everything. Like I would put a program. If I had these programs, I would throw it on this computer, and I'd throw it on this computer, and then I would sell them that way after they were stolen, and I switched out all the parts and redid everything. And so I'd already, so it was an easy transition for me, basically. You know what I mean? I already had a foot into it. And then I had hooked up with somebody, this one chick that was working for what do they call that? She was working for a tour company, and she'd give me stacks of information that had all of their credit card information, their address, their this or that, and some other things. And so I was able to finally figure out how to put it all together. I can't tell you what I did with this one because this one might get me in trouble. But I ended up going cross country, and I netted a bunch of money, and I knew something was off. A roommate kept calling, and it's like something wasn't right in my mind. And so I went to somewhere else, hid all the money, went to my house. As soon as I get there, there's two other dudes there, and the dude that she was hanging out with told this other dude, who's supposedly some Hells Angels guy, that I was coming with a big score, you know what I mean, coming back up with a bunch of drugs and all this other shit. So he was there to tax me, basically. And so long story short, I didn't have anything. I'm like, you can take some of the fireworks that I bought in New Mexico. There's a bike you can have, but you're really stupid, because I'm capable of doing way more than what you think. And if you really want some peanuts and you don't want a part of the whole bag, then you're missing out. And so I Jedi mind tricked his ass, and he's like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah. Okay. And so he went along with it. Right. And so after that point, I'm going to kill this dude. And because he put my chick on the floor, he put me on the floor, it was like, all right, this is like, I already ran from somebody once. I ain't doing that shit again. Fuck that. You came into my house, because I have some balls now. I've been through I've been through a raid, this and that. And so like, this is like this would have been the graduation into the next step of like, all right, you're a true gangster now. You can kill somebody. And so I went and took all the information that I had, and I bought a shotgun and a fake ID with a credit card. And I rented like I was living this one dude's life. I had rental cars in his name, credit cards in his name that I had sent to me, and I figured out. But the one mistake that I made is that he was a black guy, and I'm not. So the person on that ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening is I was trying to cheat on my chick. I got the gun. I was planning all of this stuff, right? But there was, I don't know what was on my mind, but I knew I wanted to fuck this one broad. So I went and got a hotel room and I used, instead of paying cash, I used the credit card. They ran my name, because when you go to a weekly, they run your name to Metro and to see if you're a fugitive from anywhere, right? Well, it came back that here's my picture and here's this ID and here's this ID, is black dude and the fucking Mexican dude. So they put me off and they said, all right, come back in a half hour. I come back, they were already there waiting for me. And that was the end of that. And that's where I go when I go to prison. That's the last step. There was a couple of other things that happened. The rest of the story is after I get out of prison, because then it continues.
Let's hear about it, man. I mean, I know you got to bounce. You got other appointments, so we can just kind of wrap it up here. I think it's a good spot. Yeah. It's a fucking wild ass story, man. I'm loving it so far, but let's I know you got shit to do, so we can wrap it up.
That's fine.
All right, cool, man. Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
All right.
That works.
Sweet, man.
All right.
All right. Sean Dustin, everyone. Peace.
All right, brother.
Have a good one.